represent the truth of the suicide risk in Malaysia. Let's look at the next slide. So to stats equal facts, and it is shown that in 2007 in Malaysia, the National Suicide Registry Malaysia was created, and this was a standardized place for suicide cases to be registered in Malaysia, so that we would have one trustable source to look at these rates of suicide over the years. However, in 2011, due to lack of funding, the NSRM was cancelled. So at this point in time, there is no standardized national suicide registry in Malaysia. And secondly, just like any other, mental health issue or even physical health issue, there's always a risk of underreporting by police and also family members. So if you can go to the next slide, there's a bit more of relation to why there's underreporting. So the third one is that the law mandates that all cases of sudden death must be fully investigated. So this is mostly in the part of the police, and this is not always the case. There are various reasons why some cases are not fully investigated. And since they are not fully investigated, they are not ruled as, some of them are not ruled as suicide, even though it may have been due to suicide. And for the fourth reason, stigma associated with suicide, this can be related to why family members or friends of an individual who passed away due to suicide may not be reporting this, because some might consider it sinful, some might consider it shameful. So due to all these reasons, I cannot say with certainty that the statistics that we are looking at are 100% accurate, but at this point, they are based on a lot of research and evidence that we currently have at the moment. All right, so moving on from the statistics and also the prevalence rate in Malaysia, can we go next? Now I would like to bring you through a bit of the religious aspects and its views on suicide. So in Malaysia, we have 4 main religions, and it is Hindu, Islam, Buddhist, and also Christianity. So firstly, just a little bit of a crash course on what is religion. Basically, religion is just a way people think about and also interact with something that's bigger than themselves. So in most religions, there is a source of creation, God. Next. And in most religions, there is a sacred place for each religion. For Hindus, it is temple. For Muslims, it is the mosque. For Christians, it is church, and so on. So when someone is practicing religious practices, they tend to go to these places to further worship and also be closer connected to God or their religious beliefs. Next. Yeah, I think you have to click next again because it comes with the bubble. Okay, thank you. So in religious practices, any religious practice has their own rules or teachings, which are typically abided by those who are practicing that religion. And of course, different people have different religions, but among all the religions, you can find that they do share some similarities and some commonalities in terms of what they preach and also how people actually practice them. Next. Okay, so this is actually from a study a couple of years back, and it says that to the extent that religious people believe that their lives are controlled by a higher power, negative life events happen for a reason, or that life events are opportunities for spiritual growth, they may experience life events as less threatening and less stressful. So these are some reasons why religious people, when they are actually practicing a certain religion, they actually have a bit of a better outcome in terms of feeling less stressful and feeling less threatened towards these life events. Next. Okay, so let's dive into the main religion in Malaysia practiced by majority of Malaysians, which is Islam. So for each of the religion, I have put in a few excerpts from their particular religious transcript. So for Islam, this is from the Quran, and the Quran teaches that life is sacred. do not kill the soul which Allah has forbidden except by right. So what this is actually talking about is that it's kind of reminding us that life is precious and that taking one's life is not permissible under the Islamic practice. Next. The next is hope in God's mercy. So it says that do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins, and it is He who is forgiving the merciful. So this is actually showing people that those who actually practice Islam can actually turn to God for forgiveness, for mercy, and because God can also provide hope even in dark times. Next. And indeed, with hardship will be ease. So this is talking about patience and trust, and it is showing that suffering is temporary. It is not a permanent state for anyone, and it will help to bring relief if we are closer to God at this time. All right, next. So when I'm discussing all of this, what I'm actually trying to say is that different religious practices have these different beliefs, have these different ways that people can seek solace, can reinforce their faith. And these are some things that can help those people who may struggle with their mental health, may think about committing suicide, in processing those emotions and those difficult thoughts that they're having. So regardless of which religion you are, your religious faith does provide certain solace for you in terms of the scriptures that they have and the teachings that they follow. So for Hinduism, for example, karma and rebirth, for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. So this is sort of discussing the eternal nature of the soul and how in Hinduism, we believe in rebirth. So it's encouraging people to view life's troubles and life's challenges as something that is part of a broader journey that we are experiencing. Next. Surrender to God. So surrender unto me, I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So just like what it says, it shows here that we can actually trust God in a way that we do not have to fear about the challenges that we are currently facing, because if we believe in God, then this can actually help us to, go through what we're currently going through at times. Next. So from Hinduism, now we're going to the next religious practice in Malaysia, which is Christianity. And they discuss God's purpose and love in their Bible as well. And it says that, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and also a future. So it's kind of nice to note that a lot of the things that we are doing, it's typically said that this is part of something bigger than us. I think there's a very famous quote that says that no matter what you plan for yourself, sometimes things may not work out, and God always has a bigger plan for you. So this is what this verse is also discussing from the Bible. Next. Jesus' compassion. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So this is also similar to what was mentioned under even in Islam and Hinduism earlier, how if we are having troubles, currently in life, to those who are struggling, this verse is also encouraging them to turn to God during times of distress, and it will give you a sense of belonging, a sense of peace, a sense of having faith in something that's bigger than yourself to guide you through these dark times. And next. So next, when we talk about strength in weakness, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. So this is actually discussing about God's grace and how it is quite strong even during our weakest moments, being there as a source of comfort for us. And it also shows us that we are not alone in our struggles that we do. We always have a source of higher power that we can turn to during these times. Okay, and the last religious practice that I would like to talk about is Buddhism. So Buddhism mindfulness is actually something that's very much a way of life, and it's very much even advocated in the mental health practice. So mindfulness practices to help observe thoughts and emotions as something that is impermanent. So it's something that is temporary, and this helps to reduce our attachment from any pain that we are currently experiencing. So when we reduce our attachment to the pain and suffering, this will in hopes alleviate the suffering that we are feeling. Next. Compassion, one should cultivate an unbounded mind towards all beings. So this verse is talking about how we should actually practice compassion towards ourselves and also to other people, because this can help to reduce the feeling of isolation that we have, foster a sense of community, a sense of community and connection, which is quite important when we're actually dealing with a topic as serious as suicide. So this brings me to my next slide. Okay, so I've spoken to you a little bit about Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, and also Buddhism, and how certain, in their scriptures, they all talk about a common goal. And some of the things that they mention is actually how much you can put your faith in God. And I understand that perhaps not even everyone in this webinar and not everyone in the world or in Malaysia are religious people. And some of them maybe don't really go to religion as a source of comfort, or some of them do not practice any religion. So the question comes to, is religion important in the context of helping people who are going through suicidal plans or may want to end their life? So I think the best way to answer that, because even I myself do not have all the answers, but the best way to answer that would be religion and also spirituality is also an individual journey. Yes, it makes us belong into a sense of community, but that is because of the common ideologies or common goals that you might share. So if you find personally that religion is a source of comfort for you, that it is something that has helped you time and again, or it may have not helped you before, but it is something you are willing to seek hereafter to see if it does help you, then these are the reasons, whatever I've mentioned to you before, and also the importance of religions in this current slide, that you may want to, that you could try it if you feel that it would be something beneficial for you. So it may not be for everyone, because like I said, not everyone is religious, but for those who are or who are keen to be, then this is something that has been proven to actually help people in the past. So there's a lot of reasons why religion could be a source of help for those who are going through a very difficult time in their lives. But some of the main commonalities among the religions earlier is that all of them have prayer and meditation, and all religions actually encourage this because they believe that it can provide a sense of calm, a sense of clarity, and also a sense of connection to a higher power or the universe itself. Next, community support. So like I mentioned, if you're part of a religion and there are many other people who are also part of that religion, of course, this instills a sense of community and support because you all have a common sense of belongingness, a common sense of, a goal, a way of life that all of you are practicing. So this really can help you to boost that sort of sense of community among you. And last but not least, religion has time and time again been seen as a source of hope and purpose for many people. So it helps to enhance the perspective of individuals to find meaning even in times that are very difficult for them. So this is just a bit of like a crash course on how religion can be a source of comfort and can be a tool that people are using to help themselves or help those who are struggling with suicidal plans or attempts. It is, of course, first and foremost important to first know whether the individual or whether you actually have, it is important to note whether you or the people who you are trying to help are religious or connected to religion in some way. Because if they are not, then this may not be the best path for them. Next. Okay, and last but not least, let's talk about personal take on suicide. So when I talk about personal, this is about all of you lifesaver buddies and all of us here today. So firstly, when we talk about personal take, this involves personal attitude. And personal attitude in layman terms is basically an enduring or lasting belief, feeling, and evaluation. Next. And personal attitudes are often shaped by our experiences and our culture. And our experiences, culture will shape our beliefs. And next. This in turn also influences the behavior that we do, the actions that we do, and also the decisions that we make. Next. So in a nutshell, personal attitudes affect our cognitive, our thoughts, affective, is our emotions, and our behavior. And these are shaped by experiences around us ever since we are born, or even before we were born, and the culture that we are currently in. And this also influences the actions that we take, how we live our lives, and the decisions that we make. And attitudes are often something that is enduring and long-lasting because it is developed ever since we are young up till our current age. Next. Besides personal attitude, personal reactions are also part of the personal take of people. So our reaction is literally derived from react. It means it's how we are responding to a specific event or a specific person. Next. So emotional responses or reactions that we have to specific events are influenced by our attitude, our personal attitude in the previous slide, and also by the context, of course, the situation that we are in and our current psychological state. So our personal attitude and our personal reactions are two aspects that are very important when we are pursuing or actually doing anything in our life. So currently in this webinar, we are actually going to look at how our personal attitudes and our personal reactions can be helpful or unhelpful to help those who are currently going through suicide, who currently have suicidal plans, or who may be attempting suicide. Next. Okay, everyone, it's Slido time. And as you can see from the next page, there is a QR which I would love for you to scan. Alia has also provided a Slido link. And we'll be opening up Slido very shortly. Okay, so once you enter the QR code or you enter the link, you should see this question, which is on the Zoom screen as well. So the first question is, why do you think some people negatively judge those who commit suicide? And I would love to hear your take on it. Please don't worry about whether your answer may be, if you feel that it may be wrong, or it may be something that is, you feel that no one else is thinking. This is the space for you to actually voice out what you think, your concerns and your point of view, and we can go through it together. Wow, I see a lot of different comments, and there's still some people typing. I'll give you a minute to write down your answers. Okay, so I see a lot of great answers here. Unfortunately, due to time, I won't be able to go through each one, but I am noticing some common themes in the answers that are being posted. Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Miza. So the themes are also listed here as well, if you can look at the Slido slides. So yeah, let's go through the first one. Stigma. That's very true. Even like I mentioned earlier in one of my slides, that a lot of people may have negative judgment towards those who commit suicide due to stigmatization of mental health. And stigma is something that unfortunately plagues, I think, every nation, every community, because there are a lot of people who may not understand what other people are going through, and misunderstanding or not understanding can lead to stigmatization. And in mental health, especially, I would like to say that after COVID, things got a little, the awareness on mental health has increased, but I think we still have a way to go in terms of destigmatizing mental health and actually looking at how poor mental health, or maybe struggling with mental health, its correlation to suicide itself. The next one, religious. Yeah, so religious, this is one of the reasons why our webinar also initially focuses on religion, because in many countries such as Malaysia, religion is actually quite intertwined with different aspects of our life, and also in a community level. So when it comes to religion being a source of aiding tool, like I mentioned earlier about, oh, religious can be a source of help. And yes, it can. But at the same time, religion may also be a reason why people may not be very understanding or very helpful towards those who commit suicide. Because yes, in some religions, suicide is dilarang, it's prohibited. So I think people tend to assume that, okay, if you commit suicide, then it is automatically wrong. But I think rather the more important question to be asking, in my opinion, is that instead of seeing whether suicide itself is wrong or it's right, learn to see why the person may have been in such a situation that they felt that ending their life was the only option, instead of appreciating life, or maybe sometimes we think that, oh, they weren't trying hard enough to be happy. There were some answers also were discussing like, oh, yeah, there were some answers I saw in the Slido where people said that, oh, people might assume that those who committed suicide were not trying hard enough, or they're not appreciating life. So yeah, these are some things that people may believe. And the thing is that people's belief are often derived from their own experiences. So we may not have been in a position where we felt that life was not worth living, or that life was too hard to go on. But not everyone feels that way. And I think also in terms of the suicide prevention webinar last week, and also our current webinar right now, we will explore some reasons why people feel that they had not much of another option besides committing suicide. Okay, I think we will move on to the next slide. Thank you very much for your answers. I love seeing that all of you are very interactive and participating in today's webinar. So, okay, when we looked through some personal attitudes earlier that may have not been very helpful, such as, like using religion as a right or wrong measure in terms of whether committing suicide is right or wrong, and having prejudice towards people who commit suicide, or people feeling that, or blaming people for committing suicide due to the fact that they may not be appreciating life too much, or not trying hard enough, or perceiving them as weak. So these are a lot of things that actually contribute to the main theme that we saw in the Slido earlier, which is the stigmatization of suicide. So some personal attitudes here that are more helpful, there are plenty, but I just picked out a few. The first one is, of course, be understanding. So try to put yourself in their shoes and realize that their pain is real, even if you don't fully understand it. And I would like to highlight the sentence here, which is even if you don't fully understand it. Because in all honesty, I don't think any of us can understand what another person is going through. It can even be your own sibling. You may think, me and my sibling grew up together. We have the same parents. We have the same family. We went to the same school. We ate the same food. So doesn't that mean we should have the same experience? But you are not your sibling. Your sibling is not you. You both have different cognitive processes. You both have different personalities. You both have different even genetic compositions. So putting yourself in someone's shoes and trying to understand their pain, even though you are not them, you do not share their experiences, is actually a very, very powerful tool that can help you in better understanding people who actually want to commit suicide, or people who are struggling with mental health. And if you are able to understand them, then that actually relates to better helping them, because you can try to see it from their perspective. And to understand them, to see things from their perspective, of course, being patient is a key factor. Because a lot of us, I think almost everyone maybe has had at least one negative life experience. So we know through that experience that healing does take time. For some people, it may take a minute. For some people, it takes a day. Some people, it may take even weeks, months, or years. So if you are keen in helping someone who is going through a difficult time, who wants to commit suicide, be prepared to support them for a long time, and not just for a fixed amount of time. Next. Next is also to listen carefully. Now, this can actually also really help in understanding them, because if you allow them to talk about their feelings without interruption or trying to fix things right away, they may, number one, it makes them feel heard because they know that you're not there as just like a quick fix. You're there to actually listen to them. And two, by listening to someone, understanding their concerns, you can then get to the root cause of their concerns. And through that, you can perhaps turn their concern into working together with them to find better ways for them to deal with it. And be kind and caring. At the end of the day, show them that you care about them and that their life is important. Because at that point in their time, especially those who are having suicide plans or may have past attempts or currently planning to attempt, they may not see their life as something that is worth living at that point. So being kind, caring, showing them some compassion can really go a long way. Next. Now for personal reactions that are helpful. So reactions, like I mentioned earlier, is actually the emotional response that you provide to someone. So this is assuming that someone who, your loved one or someone you know who is going through a difficult time, the way that you could react to them is actually by showing concern. So to show concern, one of the main ways is actually to gently tell them that you're worried about them and that you're there to help. So of course, being gentle with them, reassuring them that you're worried and that you're actually there to help. This itself displays a great amount of concern. And a lot of people really appreciate that, especially when they're going through hard times. I mean, who among us doesn't really appreciate a true friend, a true companion who comes to us and expresses some concern when we are upset or when we are going through a difficult time? And encouragement, if we feel at any point that maybe we may not be the best person to talk to, or we feel that they may benefit from someone else to talk to, then it is good if we can actually encourage them to talk to someone like a doctor, counselor, professional support, and also offer to help them make that connection. So again, for this sentence, I would like to stress on the back half, it is offer to help them make that connection, because more often than not, those who are actually going through a tough time, those who are actually planning to commit suicide, they do know of the existence of these mental health services. They do know that there are numbers that they can talk to. But knowing something and actually implementing that in their life, actually doing it when they are maybe at the peak of their stress, is two different things. So offering to help them make that connection, maybe dialing the phone for them, being by their side while they're speaking to the person, bringing them to a mental health service department can also make all the difference. Next is also be there for them. So everything that I've said thus far is actually ways that you are being there for them. Let them know that they can reach out to you whenever they need to talk, and also check in on them regularly. So that's also related to what I mentioned earlier, that genuinely and truly helping someone is not just a one-time thing. It is something that is gradual, and it's also a bit more long-term. And get help if needed. If they talk about suicide, it's important to involve someone who can help, even if they ask you not to. So this is something that will also be mentioned by my other lifesaver buddies, Fadila and Alia, because it's very important to look at how we can navigate helping someone and bringing in other people who can help, although the person who is planning to commit suicide does not want you to. So this will be discussed later on, so I won't go too much into it. And last but not least, the next slide, which I find is one of the most important personal reactions, is to avoid quick fixes. Don't just tell someone to cheer up or stay positive. Instead, let them express how they feel and be supportive. So this was also some answers that I saw in the Slido earlier, because people were saying that some negative judgment is that people assume that those who committed suicide or are planning to commit suicide are just not trying to stay positive, are not trying to make themselves happy. So like I also mentioned earlier, that these things, asking someone to cheer up, asking someone to stay positive, is just a quick fix. At that point in time, the people who are planning to commit suicide may have an overwhelming sense of issues in their life currently that they are having a hard time to manage. So despite staying positive, that may not actually help them to navigate through those issues. Rather, it may just be like they're pushing those issues away and just forcing themselves to be in a state of mood that they are not genuinely feeling. So being there to actually express let them express how they feel, and then supporting them after learning that information that they have provided to you. Once they have expressed it, you understand, okay, this is their state of mind, this is what they're thinking about, this is what is actually plaguing their mind. Then being supportive and helping them and providing solutions will be much more meaningful and also much more useful and accurate. Okay, next. All right, so this is actually the end of my section. So I've brought you through the introduction, suicide rates in Malaysia and how we are currently doing. And then we talked a little about religious practices and how they can be a coping tool for those who are using religion as a coping tool, and how being too rigid in certain religious practices can also hinder certain people's progress. If you're using it as a right or wrong measure instead of trying to help someone through their difficult times. And last but not least, we looked at personal attitudes and personal reactions that could be unhelpful and also helpful to people. So here is a little did you know trivia. About 1 in 3 individuals who commit suicide express their suicide intentions verbally or through writing. So this means that at least 30% of completed suicides gave some sort of warning of their plans and might have been able to be helped prior to the suicide. So this shows that there are some things that could have probably helped if it had been noticed earlier. Now, this is not a blame game. We're not saying that, oh, if people were more attentive, this may have happened or this may have not happened. But this is just based on past research, things that have been seen, things that have been observed after the person committed suicide. Through people's reflection and through continuous research, they have found that at least 30% of them do provide some sort of warnings. So I think this provides a lot of questions, such as what are these warning signs? Once you see a warning sign, what do you do? And what do you not do? So to answer all of this, my lifesaver buddies, Fadila and Alia, will be bringing you through the rest of our webinar. So please stay tuned. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I will be passing to my lifesaver buddy, Fadila.
Thank you so much, Jessie. Is my voice clear? Can everybody hear my voice?
Yes.
If you can, please type 1 in the chat. I just want to see how many of you are still tuned in. 1, 2, 3, 1. Please type 1. I haven't seen any. Okay, I see 1. All right. All right. So you are, at least there is still 2 of you who are still tuned with our webinar, but that's okay, I guess. You still can type 1 if you are tuned with, okay, Cassie, thank you so much, Cassie. All right, so at least 3 of you are tuned. Okay, Dr. Rosmana as well. All right, I will see some more is coming. Okay, thank you so much. So in the second part, I will be talking about empowering you. We want you to be able to do the suicide intervention. You as a lifesaver buddy. What are the things that you should know? What are the things that you should do? So that's are the things that we will be talking about. Next slide. This is you. Imagine you as a lifesaver buddy officially. All right. My voice is echoing. I see. All right. So yeah. So let me just try to perhaps. Okay. I hope this is better. Is the voice better now? Is it better now? Hello. Yes. It's not. Okay. What about now? If it is better, can you please type 2? Yes, way better. All right, great. 2. All right, perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for the response. Okay, so you as a lifesaver buddy, we already talked about the helpful attitude and what are the not helpful attitude, right? So to ensure that our personal reaction and also attitude is right, there are at least 3 things to hold on, 3 principles to hold on, which is the first one, respect.
And the second one, empathy. And the third is care. What do we mean with respect? When we say we respect someone, we acknowledge that they can decide for themselves, and they have their own boundary, and we respect that. We respect their will. However, we also want to ensure that we are empathetic, right? We know what is it that is concerning them, and we know what is the problem, and we want to show that. And finally, care. We want to let them know that we are there to help them. All right, next slide. Yes, you already talked in length about the religious perspective of it. Now, perhaps some of you are Muslim, and some of you who are not Muslim can still remember this to embody this value that we have. So in Quran, it says that whoever saves a life, it is as though he has saved the lives of all men. And it is not just a unique value to hold on in Islam, but it's also, I believe, it's something that is universal in Christianity, in Judaism, in other religion. We have this teaching. So as a lifesaver body, you have a very important mission to do, which is to save life. And when we save life, we actually save. When we save one life, we actually save the life of all men. All right, next one. As a lifesaver body, we want you to be able to look around and know what are the things what are the warning signs and how to assess it. How are the different warning signs might be coming from different person, and also achieve the mission. We want you to be able to apply the suicide intervention. What are the strategies? What are the things that we need to remember? And finally, also, we already talked about it, but just also a reminder, respect, empathy, and care. All right, next slide. NALCO. Oh, what is that NALCO? So NALCO is the step one by one process that we can do when we see someone as a lifesaver buddy, when we see someone who might be struggling with the suicidal thoughts. So first, next. Notice. We want to notice the sign that we can see and we can hear, and we want to follow our gut feeling. We will talk about all of this later in a deeper manner. All right, the second one is ask. We want to ask clearly about suicide. And the third one is listen. We want to understand their world. We want to show you we care. We want to listen properly. The fourth, we also want to connect with them, them with the hope, connect them with the life. And we want to connect them to safety for now, at least just safety, at least just for now. All right, the next one. We also want to stop the plan. We want to change the situation. We want to plan for safety. We want to make sure that they know what is next. And finally, also to ensure. All right, next one. Okay, so we want to notice, look around you. When we're looking around, right? So we want to know who is at risk of suicide. Who are the groups? Who are the perhaps characteristic of those people who are at higher risk of suicide? And we also want to know what are the warning signs. And finally, we want to just follow our hearts because as my colleague Yasi already mentioned that the people who committed suicide have already shared their intent before that. And perhaps we already noticed the signs, but we want to make sure that we really follow our heart because you already have it within you that you can build a life saver body. All right, next one. All right, we want to look around you. Who is at risk of suicide, right? And yes, who is at risk of suicide? So there are personal characteristic and also perhaps social group and also the kind of situation that might increase the probability of that person to have suicidal thoughts or thinking about ending their life. Okay, next. Who is at risk of suicide? C. Next. Next, personal. The personal characteristic of person who might be at a higher risk of suicide is first, they are having mental health condition, perhaps, or also aggression. They're showing mood swings, or they're having poor relationships. These are the signs that we want to be more careful. If a person is having this situation, they might be at a higher risk of suicide. And also previous attempts. They have tried to do suicide before, so they are at a higher risk. And also social, in terms of social setting, someone who is living alone might be at a higher risk, and also having a hard childhood experience, such as being abused or being neglected, and also they are experiencing bullying, or their family member has a history of suicide, and also they are undergoing discrimination. These people are at higher risk of suicide. The next one. And also situation, someone who just experienced a big rejection, or for example, divorce, or having a financial crisis, or just experiencing the death of loved ones. So yeah, these are the people who are at risk as suicide. Now, an important note, for example, here, someone who is, let's see, someone who is on a personal level, they have a mental health condition. For example, they're having currently going through depression, and also on a, they're living alone in a social set in the social setting, and they just currently undergoing financial crisis. Are they definitely having thoughts of suicide? Of course, the answer is no. So means that these are just higher risk, but however, we don't really, eventually, we don't really know who actually has the suicidal thoughts. And that's why we want to be more careful. We want to be more attentive of those who are around us. Next slide. Yeah, so about in 1 in 2 individuals who commit suicide express their suicidal intention through verbally or through writing. So there is already signed before that. I believe we have some question, which hopefully we will address during the question and answer session. But you can feel free to post your question if you already have it, so that we can address it later. But for the sake of time, I will just continue to explain for the time being. Thank you so much, Brother Lukmanil, for the question. All right, next one. Also, we want to look around and notice and differentiate the warning signs. What are the warning signs? What are the signs that might tell us that a person is having suicidal thoughts? And we can see that from 3 things. The first one is the content of their talking, what they are talking about, and also we want to see their behavior and also their mood. Next slide. So the warning signs that are shown from talking, for example, they might be telling that on the theme of killing themselves, such as saying, oh, I wish I were dead, or I can't go on living like this. That might be a sign. And also being a burden, for example, when someone said, um, oh, my family is better without me, or just or saying I'm just a burden to my family. When they are saying that they're being a burden, then there might also be a sign that they are thinking of ending their life because they don't want to be a burden anymore, or feeling trapped. For example, I feel stuck. I really don't know how to solve this problem, or I think there's no escape, or I just can't see any way forward. So they are feeling stuck, and they don't know what else to do beside suicide, possibly. That is also a warning sign. And also no reason to live. I have nothing to look forward to. It's like life has no meaning to me anymore. So we also want to we want to be more alert when we hear someone saying that. And also, for example, they want the problem to end soon. This will all be over soon, or like it won't be a problem much longer, it will be ended soon. Or like they can tell us, for example, you won't have to worry about me soon, you won't have to worry about me, don't worry. So they are saying that. Or perhaps the other sign of talking, For example, they're having unbearable pain, although they've been having unbearable pain, but then they can suddenly say that, I can't take this pain anymore, or it hurts too much to keep going. I just really, really cannot take it. So these are the warning signs that are being verbally said. It is within the way they are talking. Next one. In terms of the behavior, people who are having suicidal thoughts might be seen, perhaps, for example, when they are isolating themselves from the family and friends, or they have increased use of alcohol or drug, and also they're looking away to end their lives. For example, they're Googling how to access certain pill to be overdosed from it, or yeah, looking for methods online, right? Or they're also not joining the activities that they used to join, or sleeping too much or too little, or visiting people and telling goodbye to people, or giving away prized possessions. If someone who initially had a very beautiful wallet and they really love it, but suddenly they give it away as if it's nothing, and they just want it to be held by someone who is dear to them, that might also be a sign. Aggression, fatigue, that all can be a sign. All right. The next one is in terms of mood, right? So someone who is having a suicidal thought might be showing depressed mood. For example, they're looking sad or avoiding people, or they say that they're hopeless, or I am not, I don't have any worth, or also they might be anxious. They cannot rest, or they're worrying a lot. They can also show lack of interest on activities or the things that they cared about before that, and now they don't really care about it. And also, they may appear to be irritable, get annoyed easily, or they seem to be like very frustrated over small things. That might also be a sign of someone who is already considering suicide, or humiliation or shame. For example, when they avoid eye contact when we're interacting with them, or they say they feel embarrassed, or like a failure, they are ashamed of themselves. That those are the signs that we might also be careful about. And also, finally, relief or sudden improvement, right? So when someone who is suddenly, they are so calm, they are so peaceful, although before that, for 1 week or for 1 month, they've been very, very in low mood. We want to be very careful with that as well, because they might also finally think that, oh, suicide is the way. So they're happy about it, or like they are, yeah, unusually cheerful after struggling. All right. So these are the warning signs, right? When you finally found all those warning signs, next slide, we can determine, the first thing that we need to determine is, can we still talk to that person? If we still can, and there are two scenarios from this, right? Can we still talk with that person? The first scenario is, next, is they cannot communicate anymore. They are in immediate danger. They cannot communicate, for example, when they already refuse, they already make the decision they want to end their life, and there's no room for negotiation, there's no room for talking between us. Then in this kind of scenario, what we want to do is to call emergency. We want to also seek help to monitor the person. So because this is immediate danger and there's no room for talking. And the second scenario is next to, we still can talk with the person. Then in this case, we initiate the conversation, and we want to apply the safety plan. All right. Next slide. So when the first scenario, where it is actually emergency scenario, then we want to stay with this person and stay calm. Stay calm, because when we are calm, at least we are be of help for ourselves, right? And then we can also be of help for the person who were committing the suicide, and don't ever leave them alone if they are in immediate danger. That's why we want to activate the monitoring system, such as, for example, we want to call the police, or we want to call security, or we want to call any mental health services that are responding to suicide. That is also a necessary thing to do. So when we call these emergency services, we want to tell them also, we can tell them, okay, I'm so sorry, but I need to call this and this. I need to call them because I really care about you and I don't think I can help you. So we want to inform them that we of your plan, and also, if it is possible, we ask someone to assist. For example, they can arrange for the travel of the emergency service, and we can stay with the person. Or we also want to ensure that they know that the help is available and their feelings can change. And also we want to stay with them until the help arrives. We want to ensure that they are safe, at least with us. So the next point is achieve the mission. If the person is still open for conversation, it is not immediate danger, then what we wanna do is to apply the safety plan, right? Next. So this study helped us to understand the nature of suicidal thoughts. The first thing is that suicidal thoughts can change quickly. So it fluctuates during the day. So how they do in this study is that they rate the intensity of the suicidal desire, the intention to end their lives, from 0 to 10. 10 means it is very, very strong intent to kill themselves, right? So what they found out is that the average duration for intense suicidal thoughts is ranging from 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 1 hour, to 10 hours, 9.5, right? So that is a very high range, like very short period of time. It's just from 1 hour until 10 hours. So we need to be quick. When we know someone is considering suicide, we want to be quick because the time frame is very short. And also, suicidal thinking often comes and goes. So when we are talking about, when we're checking with someone and they say, no, I'm not thinking about suicide, it could be because they were not thinking about it. But there are moments when they also think about it. So we want to really make sure that this person, how is this person? Are they considering suicide, and how intense is the intent to end their life, right? Next. So as we shared earlier already, so we want to notice, and we want to ask, we want to listen, we want to connect, and we want to plan, and finally we want to ensure. Now cope. Notice, ask, listen, connect, plan, and ensure. Okay, let's see how to exactly execute this one by one. Next. So first, notice, we want to look around you. You already know who are the people who is at higher risk of suicide, and you already know what are the warning signs of suicide, right? And you already know, most importantly, that you have it within you. You just need to follow your heart when you notice a sign. So, next slide. You notice Alice. So Alice is your friend. And you notice that she is starting to give away her belongings, and she seems to be unusually detached. She's not used to be like that, but currently she is not participating in social situation. So we want to notice that first. That is the first step. We notice. And when we notice, we can start the conversation. Next slide. For example, you've been quieter than usual. Are you okay? Or, you don't seem like yourself today, Alice. Is everything right? Or, it seems like you've been really down lately. Are you okay? Do you wanna talk about it? Or perhaps the final version is like, I'm worried about you and I just want to make sure that you're okay. Is there anything you need? So these are the way that we can notice the problem. So do you have idea of how we can notice how we can help Alice and to tell her that we notice that there is a change lately? Feel free to type them. The way we will move forward from here is that if you get I will give you some ideas of the wording. And if you get a new idea that has not been listed, perhaps you can feel free to share in the chat box. Why we want to do that is because we want to empower you. We want you to have the experience of at least typing it, or you can also like practice it, saying it out loud by yourself. But the idea is that you can already do it. So is there anybody who wants to type? How should we tell Alice that we notice there is a change recently with her? All right. So I will keep proceed, but just feel free to send it on the chat. Next slide. So we wanna, after we notice, maybe she will share with us some stuff. And after we listen to the story, we wanna ask about suicide. This is the second step, ask. We wanna ask about suicide, and we wanna ask clearly, because research shows that asking about suicide does not increase the risk of the person committing suicide, but it actually opens door for intervention. And this is very important because sometimes maybe we don't feel very comfortable to ask that kind of question, but we want to ask clearly. Next slide. So asking clearly about suicide also have some other benefits. For example, we show care, and it also reduce stigma, right? Before that person may be thinking about suicide and they're already guilty about it because they know in the religion it is not something that is permissible. But when we ask that person, hey, are you thinking of ending your life? They might feel relief because at least the conversation is there. The conversation is not taboo. And we also clarify the intent, whether they are really thinking about suicide or they're just being sad, right? That is really important. And we want to prevent a miscommunication, and we also demonstrate support. And finally, this is the most important one as well, is that we want to open the door for help. Next one. So what are the do's and don'ts, right? For example, the way we want to ask clearly about suicide is, are you thinking to end your life? Or are you thinking of suicide? These are clear, right? There's no misinterpretation from this kind of question. However, when we ask, for example, are you thinking of doing what is it, right? And also, do you want to hurt yourself? Someone might be wanting to hurt themselves, but they're not thinking about suicide. So we want to be clear that it is ending life. Okay, next one. So how we can ask about it? Perhaps this is just one example. If you have another wording, please feel free to send it on chat. For example, we can say, when people feel this overwhelmed, they sometimes think about suicide. Are you thinking of doing it? We can say that. What I like about this example is that when people feel this overwhelmed, that shows it is a common experience of people to actually think about suicide, right? And we want to make them feel less guilty and less lonely by showing that other people also might have this. Usually they think about suicide in this way. Okay, next. And step 3, we already said the first one is notice, and the second one is ask. The third one is listen. We want to listen to their world. We want to show that we understand. Okay, next. So why we need to listen, right? Because perhaps we can give this beautiful forest analogy that my friend taught me. For example, you are the black person outside the forest, and the person who is having the suicidal intent is already inside the forest. And this forest of thoughts, of feelings, of desperation, and of sadness. They are there. So we want to listen so that we understand how to actually go about inside their forest and take them from where they are. We want to connect with what they are feeling. We want to connect with what they are thinking. And that's how we can be empathetic, because we understand their world, right? So this is the forest analogy. I hope you take the time to listen to how that person is doing, because yeah, that might increase the feeling of belonging to that person who is already considering suicide. REC, right? Respect, empathetic, and also care. So the next one, step 4 is connect. We want to connect from where they are, not from where you are or where we are. And we also connect the hope. We want to connect them with the hope that maybe they haven't seen yet, for example. And also we want to bring them to safety for now. So look at you. This is perhaps you um, with the, you know, that thing. And we want to see, we want to really try to find out where is the hope. How do we connect this person? Okay, next. So, for example, when they're not sure about their choice, we can connect it with perhaps there is alternative, or when they just experience loss, maybe they can find a new hope. Or when they love something, maybe we can hold on that love. And if they have a memory of the loved ones, we can perhaps talk about it more. And also, if there's immediate need, perhaps we can talk about how to fulfill that immediate need. But the emphasis is that you care and you're willing to help. Next one. So we may say something like, it sounds like you're very sad that your dad passed away. Mm, I really feel sad about that too. Perhaps we can do something about it. And but can we keep you safe for now? Can you not do that? Can you not kill yourself, for example? So we want to ensure that they agree that we want to have a plan for safe for now. All right. Why safe for now is because safe for now looks easier than having a happy life in the after that, right? Just safe for now. Okay. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so step 5, plan. We want to change the situation and we want to connect them to support. So here we want to be sure that we already have the answer of what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and with whom, right? So we want to ask next slide. For example, next slide. So we want to ask, okay, how is there a suicide plan? How are they gonna do it? And how prepared they are? Do they already have the pills? Do they already have the ropes, for example? And when they want to do it? So we want to ask, when we have that answer, is it okay to disable the plan? So that, for example, we will take the rope, we will take the pill. So yeah, we want to get their agreement because we respect their decision. We want to get their agreement if they're okay to disable the plan. And we want to also ask, for example, is there any intoxicant? Are they consuming alcohol or drugs? Because this might make them unconscious about their decision, and maybe they do it by mistake. So we can ask them, is it okay if we put it aside? And also we want to ask them, for example, what are the previous attempts that they already have, and what can be learned? Why you did not complete your plan last time? And maybe they learn from that. Okay, next one. So, and we also want to encourage them to seek professional help, right? From psychologist, counselor, or doctor. And we also, perhaps we can offer to make an appointment or accompany them to seek the help. And we also want to involve others. We want to tell, for example, family members or close friends, and we also don't want to promise secrecy. We don't want to overpromise, and we want to stay connected. Alia will talk more about this later. Next one. So we can have a previous after that, the safety plan. Yeah, so this is already covered in the last meeting that we had last week. So this is the safety plan that we can also do together with the person. Okay, if this happen again, what is your warning sign? That person also want to be aware of the personal situation that they have, and also how they cope, and what are the people that can help them and that can provide distraction from the suicidal thoughts, and who can help when they are having the crisis, and what are the contacts that they can share. And also making the environment safer. What are the means of suicide that we can take or we can disable. All right. So next slide. Finally, we want to ensure. Next slide. Finally, we want to make sure that they actually do it. So here we can know how do we know that the action has been achieved successfully. First, we want to make sure that the plan is already disabled and they are already connected to the professional support and their support system. So next, actually, by doing all of the NALCO steps, we can say it's as if we're telling the person who is having the suicidal intent that when we notice them, we want to tell them, hey, are you okay? And when we ask them, when we are and we ask them, we want to tell them, I care for you. And when we are listening to them, we want to tell them that I am right here for you, with you. And when we are doing the connect effort, what we want to tell them is there is hope. And we are doing the planning. What we want to tell them is actually your hope is through action. We need to do something about it. And finally, when we ensure, that's when we know this person is already choosing life. All right. So that is the NALCOP, the 6 steps that we can do to intervene a suicidal thoughts. Then finally, next slide. These are just the principle to hold on, to remember, respect, empathy, and care. Next slide. This is just a recap of the things that we, next slide. Okay, so this is the recap, right? Like what are the things that we can say? What are the things that we need to ensure that we've done when we are doing the suicide intervention? Notice, ask, listen, connect, plan, and ensure. And these are the words that you can tell to that person. Okay, so Alhamdulillah, we're done with achieving our mission. And my teammate, the lifesaver buddy, Alia, will continue our journey for today, which is through the next topic. So Alia, the time and place is yours.
All right, thank you, Fadila. First of all, can everyone hear me clearly? Red light, yes. Okay. All right. Okay, amazing. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. All right. So, thank you to my fellow lifesaver buddies, Yashi and Fadila, for your amazing input on suicide in Malaysia, perspectives of religion, personal attitudes and reactions, and the intervention itself. Okay, so how's everyone doing? Are you still okay? Okay? Are you still okay? You can just write okay or maybe tired in the chat. Lots of info to digest. Yeah. But okay. I love the spirit. Thank you guys. Sleepy Monday. Yeah. Yeah. I can relate. It's a sleepy Monday. That's why they call it Monday blues. Hungry. Oh my God. Just a little bit more. And then we can go to that lunch. Okay? All right. Okay. So let's start with resources. Okay, so who do we reach out to? All right, so first I want to test you first. So the next slide. Okay, so I want to test you. So what do you know about some of the Malaysian hotlines? Let's say there's an emergency. Who do you call? 999? 911? What do you call? Who do you call? Oops, not yet, not yet. You can answer in the chat box and tell me, is it 999, 911, and what other hotlines do you know? No? 999, befrienders, 1555. Okay, these are okay, good answers, good answers. Okay, now let's see the next slide. Okay, all right. So you're right. There's the Malaysian emergency number 999. So it's not 911. So it's 999. And we can also talk to our organizational emergency negotiator or counselor, which I will talk about later. But first, let's talk about this first. So first is the Malaysian emergency number. That's the 999. Then there's also the befrienders. These are just some of the numbers, but there are more numbers for befrienders. So here's the numbers for KL, Ipoh, Penang, and there's also the Talian Kasih, which is the 15999. And then there's the Women's Aid Organization and also the All Women's Action Society. So all of these numbers are 24/7. So if it's at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or maybe 2 p.m., 1 p.m., all of this time you can just contact them and just talk about the crisis that you're having, or when, let's say, for our friend Alice, just now we mentioned, right? So when Alice is going through a crisis, then these are the numbers that you can call at any time of the day. All right. Okay, so let's go to the next page. Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier. So according to the Malaysian guidelines, so organizations such as schools, universities, hospitals, prisons, and government institutions, there should be a team called Suicide Acute Response Team. So in short, it's SART. Okay, so the objective is to organize a team approach in the immediate acute management of incident of suicide attempts. So in school or university, some maybe Alice is your maybe roommate, and this is the person, this is maybe you can inform the staff and the staff will inform the SART team. So the staff that maybe you can call is maybe the warden. Okay, so the activation of SART is when an incident of the attempted suicide occurs in an institution and is detected by any staff, let's say the warden, and the staff shall notify the SART leader immediately. Okay, so who are the SART team members? First is the team commander. This is the person who mobilizes all the team site members, and the members are first the logistics officer. So the logistic officer is the one who prepares resources for managing the incident. And there's the communication officer, just like the name itself. So it communicates response agencies such as, the hospital, the maybe the ambulance or fire department. Okay, and then the next of kin. So Alice's family member and the mass media if needed. Okay, and also security officer. So there may be, when some attempted suicide is happening, people may come and like look at it. So the security officer would handle that. So they would protect the site and provide site evidence management. And then there's the emergency negotiator or counselor, and this is the person who will provide the initial emergency psychological first aid. Okay, so they will implement the initial de-escalation management of incidents. Okay, so the emergency negotiating counselor, they handle the psychological first aid. There is also the emergency first responders. So these are the people who provide the initial emergency medical first aid. So let's say life support or CPR if needed before the arrival of specialized medical care, such as the ambulance or the fire departments. Okay. All right, so the next slide. Okay, so here are some numbers of the KL Selangor Government Hospitals that is open 24/7. So you can go to their emergency department. So there's Hospital Kuala Lumpur, Hospital Kajang, Hospital Sungai Buloh, Hospital Ampang, and Hospital Selayang. Okay, so these are 24/7. And don't worry if you don't get the numbers right now. Later, in the next two slides, there will be a QR that you could take and keep for future use. There are numbers not just KL Selangor but also all over Malaysia. Okay, all right. So for the next slide. Okay, so here are the KL Selangor affordable mental health services. So this is who you talk to. Okay, so if there's a counseling service that you want, or like maybe you want to talk to a psychologist, so here are the places. There's the Malaysian Mental Health Association, Hello Mind, Cara Space, Relate Malaysia, and Mental Illness Awareness and Support Association. So here I've compiled some affordable ones. So it goes from 50 to 120, 50 to 240, 50, and the Mental Illness Awareness and Support Association, or we can call it MIASA. So MIASA is free for B40. So if you know anyone who needs these services, these affordable mental health services, and these are the numbers that you can get. And my teammate Yashi also have posted the link in the chat box. You can also scan the QR and also take the link from the chat box. All right, so the next slide. Okay, so now the Malaysian Mental Health Services Directory. So this is a very good directory that gives the links of each state in Malaysia. So if you open the link, if you open the QR, there will be this page. So there's the Directory of Mental Health Services in Malaysia. There will be links for every state in the country. And when you click on that link, they will ask if you want counseling services, or do you want psychiatry services, or do you want clinical psychology services. And within the links, you will get to know all the different organizations, hospitals, private clinics that you can contact and go to if you need any help. Okay? All right. So you can scan the QR here, and also my teammate Yashi also posted the link in the chat box. All right. Okay. So next slide, please. We also have an app. Okay, so this app called Selangka. So Selangka, you can find it in your maybe Google Play Store or your Apple Store. So here in this app, Selangka, that you can search, it has reading tools, it has psychoeducation tools, it has mental health modules, and helpline and psychiatry subsidies program. So it may be helpful for you. It may be helpful for you to perhaps actually it's for you yourself, and also perhaps to help your friend. Okay, just to get more knowledge and to know the helplines and to just take care, have self-care. Okay. All right, so next slide, please. Okay, so ethics. What can't we do during a crisis intervention? All right, next slide. Okay, so I'm going to ask you first. Okay, so what can't you do when someone is in crisis? What do you think? You can write in the chat box. What can't you do? I think Fadila also gave some clues just now, if you remember. I can give you 1 minute maybe to write in the chat box about what you think. Giving too much advice. Right, that's right. When you give too much advice, they might like be overwhelmed. Yes, being judgmental is definitely a no-no. Right. Okay. Force them to stop. Yes. When you force them to stop, it actually makes them be more defensive. So that's good. Oh, quick fix. Correct. Okay. All right. Thank you. Keep it coming. Thank you, guys. And then next slide, please. All right. So these are the don'ts. So the first is don't leave them alone. So if a person is expressing suicidal feelings, has a plan, has means available. So let's say Alice has expressed that she wants to do suicide. She wants to attempt suicide, and she has a plan tonight at 9 p.m. and she has a knife with her, and she has a time set. Then if you notice you hear all of this, then you should take them very, very seriously. Okay, so this is not the time when you give them space. This is not the time when you just, okay, I'm just going to give you space. I'm just going to go and give you space to think. No, this is not the time. So this is a time when you just stay with them. Okay? And then keep talking to the person, stay with him or her, or arrange for another party, or maybe Alice's close friends or someone that you trust to be there as well and remove any drugs or sharp objects that could be used for suicide. Okay? And next is don't be judgmental. Okay, so be non-judgmental. Don't debate whether suicide is right or wrong or whether feelings are good or bad. Okay, and don't lecture on the value of life because it might make them feel more defensive and it feels invalidating. Okay, and the next one, don't dare them to do it because if you dare them to do it, what will they do? Do it. Exactly. Okay. All right. So for the next slide. Okay, don't ask why. So this, for example, yes, why are you doing this? When you say the word why, it sounds like an attack. So that is what Alice might be feeling when you ask why. And this will encourage defensiveness. So instead of a calming, reassuring presence, you might just be someone who's distressing the individual even more. Okay, so you might make Alice more stressed when you ask provocative questions like that. Okay, next is don't promise to keep it a secret. Okay, so it's important not to keep suicide attempt a secret because now Alice's safety and life are at risk. So when someone is suicidal, they need immediate help and support from trained professionals like the SART team, and also when you call the ambulance and then the medical team. And keeping it a secret prevents them from getting the assistance they need. So promising to keep such information can make it harder for Alice to receive the necessary intervention, and it can place an overwhelming pressure not on Alice but also on you as being the only person who knows it as well. Okay, and next one is don't counsel the person yourself. So it is important not to counsel someone yourself if they are attempting suicide. So handling such situations requires like the expertise of mental health professionals who are trained to assess risk, create safety plans, and provide appropriate support. So attempting to counsel the person on your own can unintentionally make the situation worse and place a big pressure on you. Okay? And so instead, seek professional help to navigate the crisis. All right, so next slide, please. What can you do after someone is in crisis? Okay, next slide. Okay, first, don't take or post pictures, don't post names, and don't post the methods used. Okay, next slide. Okay, so why is unethical posting problematic? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, first of all, suicide contagion. Okay, so suicide contagion is when there's stories about suicide, there's the exposure of methods used, there's the statements about inevitable suicide, let's say on your stories, or maybe you tweet it, or maybe you do a live TikTok. Okay, so when you do this, there could be a copycat. Okay, so what happened before, for example? So the fans of the late K-pop star Kim Jong-hyun Shiny wrote to Befrienders KL on how the musician's death had affected them emotionally after learning he had died by suicide. You see, they are affected when you post things about that, post about methods used, they are affected by the post. And similarly, after watching the Netflix show 13 Reasons Why, a 19-year-old teenage girl actually took her life the same way as the character in the show. So it shows that there needs to be some sensitivity and um, perhaps not to expose a lot of like stories or exposure of methods used and statements of the suicide, okay? Because there may be copycats. All right, so next slide, please. Yes, and as mentioned earlier, it can be triggering. So posting graphic images can be triggering and traumatizing. All right, so next slide. Okay, so self-care, what happens after? Okay, so when looking after someone who is experiencing such significant emotional turmoil, until they, want to attempt suicide, it can be easy to overlook your own needs. When you care so much about the person, you might actually overlook your own needs. Okay, so when you are putting so much emotional energy and effort into supporting another person and keeping them from harm, it's important that you actually look after yourself and to avoid burning out. Okay, so make your own health and well-being a priority even if only to ensure that you can continue to provide the best care for them or for Alice. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so talking about it. All right, so an important aspect of self-care is actually to have someone to talk to about the situation and how it's affecting you. So just to debrief about how you're feeling about the situation. What are the feelings that came when Alice said to you, um, person A, I want to kill myself right now. So how did you feel at that time? Okay, so it's important to talk about it, how it felt for you during the entire process that my colleague Fadila mentioned earlier. Okay, next slide. And next, it is important to share the responsibility. So don't try to handle this situation alone. So it's very crucial to get support. Involve family, friends, colleagues, or health professionals to share the responsibility. So when Alice mentioned that she wants to kill herself, so you can involve like her family, friends, colleagues. So there are many responsibilities that we'll share later that you can do it with them. So this will reduce your stress, help prevent burnout, and strengthen the support network for the person in need, which is Alice in this situation. So next slide. So these are the responsibilities that I'm talking about. Okay, so if Alice is, let's say, your roommate, so there may be cooking arrangements or cleaning arrangements, and as the person who actually talked to Alice and maybe brought Alice to the emergency department, you may feel that you need to take over her chores, like take over whatever she is responsible for, just as a sign of caring. But what this can do is actually make you feel burnout because then you have a lot of things to do. So what you can do is actually share. So if you have other roommates or other friends or maybe family members, then you can share the responsibility. All right. And there's also the responsibility of talking to the mental health professional. So that is not only on you. So you can talk to the staff on the site, or you can maybe bring a friend with you, or maybe you can also have a family member to actually liaise with the mental health professional or medical doctor. Okay, so it doesn't have to be only you. Next is the safety plan. Safety plan, you can share the responsibility with a mental health professional. And knowing the warning signs and checking in, such as sending text messages or maybe calling them or meeting them just to check how they're doing. You don't have to do it yourself. You can divide it between your family and friends to avoid your own burnout. And not just physical burnout, but emotional burnout as well. Sorry, emotional is here. Okay, emotional burnout as well. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so next one is important, reducing stress. So, as I mentioned before, maintaining your own well-being is essential. So, have strategies ready for when you feel stressed or overwhelmed. So, these strategies that I will be sharing with you later can prevent burnout and keep you emotionally and physically healthy. Okay, next slide. Okay, so some strategies that may be helpful are exercising. So some may like stretches, or some may like playing badminton, some may like play basketball. So it is something that you can do. It is a strategy for reducing stress and also having a good amount of sleep, having a balanced diet, and maybe doing your hobby, just focusing on your hobby, and also avoid using alcohol and drugs as your coping strategies. Why? Because they can ultimately worsen the underlying issues and create underlying stress in yourself and create additional problems such as addiction, health risks, and impaired judgment. So that it will be a cycle. And then the stress will be never ending. So it is a very unhelpful coping strategy. Okay? And then the next slide, please. Okay, and maybe you prefer going to the nature, looking at the trees, looking at the streams, and just listening to the sound of the rain. That's also a good coping strategy. If it makes you feel calmer and it reduces stress, then it is for you. And if it's not, it's all right. Okay, and because different people have different coping strategies. There's also meditation, there's also doing yoga, and there's also listening to gentle, calming music. And lastly, there's also maybe writing a journal. Maybe that could help you as well, because some people like to write to express their feelings. Okay, and the next slide. Okay, and then there are strategies such as praying and reading the Bible or the Quran. And yes, so as my wait okay as my previous suicide prevention webinar mentioned that for religious coping, as explained, tawakkul increases focus and self-regulation, and relying on God reduce depression and hopelessness in Christianity. Understanding concept of ahimsa encourages the protection of life and sense of purpose. Okay, but again, as mentioned as my teammate Yashi earlier, some of this may be for you, but some of them may not. Okay, so it is all up to you. So in the next slide, I would just like to ask, maybe you can share, maybe it's not here, it's not what I just said, or maybe do you have any other favorite coping strategy that you like and why you like it and how it helps you reduce your stress? Maybe I can give you a minute to answer. Visualization with music. That sounds very calming. Hmm. Playing badminton, Netflix, watching a funny show. These are all great strategies. I think if any of you in the webinar participants, you can maybe like if these are like some interesting ones for you as well, you can also practice them and see if it helps you as well. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, all right. Next slide, please. Okay, so before we as we come to almost an end, I just also want to equip you with a strategy called the box breathing technique. Okay, so this technique is a breathing exercise. So it helps you regulate your breathing and it can also help you reduce stress and overall mental well-being. Okay, so if you can help play the video and include the sound.
There are times when we all experience feelings of stress or anxiety. In these moments, you can use your breath to help calm those feelings. Box breathing is a simple relaxation technique that can help you reset your breath and return to its normal rhythm. You can do it anywhere, anytime. Box breathing can help reduce stress and improve mood. It can also help with controlling and managing emotions. It's very easy to learn. Imagine breathing around a box. Inhale as you visualize going up one side of the box, gradually filling your lungs with air. When you reach the top, hold your breath for 1 to 5 seconds as you picture going across the top of the box. Exhale gradually as you imagine traveling down the other side of the box. Pause again for 1 to 5 seconds as you go along the bottom of the box. Then repeat. This can be done 7 to 10 times in a row, focusing on the breath. If you can do it sitting down with your feet grounded, that will help too. But really, it can be done anywhere. Box breathing has physiological and psychological benefits. Physiologically, it regulates breath, increases oxygen to the lungs, and can help reduce blood pressure and lower heart rate. Box breathing can help psychologically by providing focus to your breath and removing attention from the things that are causing feelings of stress and anxiety. The repetition of box breathing can also help reduce stress. So, in moments when feelings of stress and anxiety are overwhelming, remember box breathing and the power of your breath as a simple way to relax and breathe a bit easier.
Okay. All right. So I hope everyone tried that box breathing together with the video. And I hope it helps. And I hope if it's something that you didn't know before, I hope it is something, perhaps a tool. Maybe when you are feeling stressed and you can remember the box breathing and practice at your own time. As the video also mentioned, you can do it seven times consecutively, and you can do it like in the morning or before you sleep, just to reduce stress and regulate yourself. Okay, all right. And for next slide. Okay, so what we talked about earlier is if the Alice is your roommate, but what if Alice is your client? So let's say this is for who am I talking to? So this is for people that may be residents or attendings or social workers or psychiatrists or psychologists in this webinar. So this is for you. So this is a debrief method after a challenging clinical event, which is the suicide attempt. So you can talk about what went well, what are the improvements and the emotional support that you can give. And where you can do it is somewhere private, quiet, and removed from the patient and the client or patient and the family. Okay, so for next slide. So before you do the pause debriefing, you invite the participants, which is the team members, to share their name and role in the patient's care. So P stands for prepare, A, analyze, U, understand, S, sentiment, and E, educate. Okay, so next slide, please. So for the first step, which is prepare, you begin the debrief by setting the tone and establishing ground rules. So what you can say is, our ground rules today are confidentiality, no judgment, and no blaming. So the rationale of this step is to create an environment of psychological safety which minimizes the fears of judgment, blame, or professional repercussions. So it creates a judgment-free situation, no blame. So it's a very safe environment that team members can share with each other. Okay, and then A, analyze. So analyze is either the debrief leader or any participant can provide a brief clinical summary of what happened leading up to and during the event. So this is the objective part. So what really happened? So this is the very concrete parts of the situation. So what you can say is maybe can someone briefly summarize what happened that led to the event? And the rationale for this is to align team members and foster maybe a shared understanding of the medical context before exploring emotional reactions. So this is the concrete first before emotions. Okay, so for the next slide, U is for understand. So ask an open-ended question to invite participants to share the initial reactions. Okay, so you can ask like, how is this for you, for everyone? So, and this aims to create an environment for participants to feel safe, to share important emotional reactions, and provide perhaps data to the facilitator or the team leader on how team members experienced the event. Okay, so how everyone felt during the event. So this is when you express your feelings. And S, sentiment, explore which aspects of the suicide attempt went well and which felt challenging. Okay, so what parts of this went well? So what parts felt emotionally challenging? And this is to highlight team success and also discussion of difficult aspects and also normalize challenges. It's not putting blame on anyone. So it can normalize challenges and perhaps identify potential areas of improvements during later interventions. And lastly, step 5, educate. The next slide is invite final reflections and one or two key lessons learned. So you can ask, what is one takeaway from this event? Or I want to close with a reminder of the institution's emotional and mental health support resources. So mental health support resources and self-care is not just for the person who is having a crisis, but also for everyone, for the person who is handling the crisis as well. Okay? And okay, so that is the pause debriefing. All right, so for the next slide, check-in. Okay, so we had a lot of information for the past almost 2 hours. Okay, so I want to check in with you. Okay, next slide. Okay, what have we learned so far? Okay, you can scan the QR code on the screen. And my teammate Yashi also sent a link in the chat box. And maybe you can answer the questions and perhaps provide feedback on how the webinar was for you. And maybe I can give you perhaps 3 minutes to answer, and then I'll come back. Okay, please. Thank you. All right, it has been 3 minutes. You can keep responding, please. And for those who responded, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We appreciate that, and we will look at that. And for others who haven't, the link is still in the chat box for you to perhaps give feedback about the webinar, or maybe let's see what you have learned. Okay. All right, for the next slide. Okay, so sneak peek for next week's suicide postvention. So we had suicide prevention. Today we had suicide intervention, and next we will have suicide postvention next week. So a little bit of sneak peek. So you will first understand about suicide postvention. What is postvention? Implementing postvention strategies and long-term support and prevention. That's so exciting. So in the next slide, okay, so I'll give you a moment maybe to take a picture of the uh, beautiful flyer here. Suicide Postvention, Lifeline of Hope, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., same times today at 9 September 2024. Okay, all right. Okay, so I hope you have taken a picture or scanned the QR code. Remember, you get a free certificate. So awesome. Okay. All right. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so before I end, I want to mention a quote, which is we talk a lot about hope, helping, and teamwork. So our whole message is that we are more powerful together. Okay, thank you for listening. And now I remember that earlier, our one of our participants, um, brother Luqmanul Hakim, you asked about how about people incarceration. Okay, so now I will pass to Sister Fadila to answer your question. Thank you.
Yeah. So the question was in the topic of the signs, right? How are we able to notice the warning signs of suicide for fellow inmates, right? So perhaps the common signs are same, right? When they are having the warning signs that are similar to those who are that we already discussed before, but perhaps in the context of prison, there is something that may be related to seeking solitude. So they are this is also the same, right? So they tend to be alone and they refuse to participate in activities, or perhaps they might express overwhelming guilt or shame for the cause that make them where they are. They might be also at risk of suicide. However, perhaps it is more important as well for us to talk about the preventive measure of such concern. For example, it is very important for us to have staff training for suicide awareness, and also intervention in the prison context, and also screening and assessment for mental health measures, and also to have the system within that context. That is very important, because it is not supposed to be just one person's role, but it should be a collective role, and we need to have the system within that context as well. So I hope that helps. Yeah. Thank you so much. Do we have more questions, perhaps? Okay, so we have some questions here from Brother Khairul Akhtar, which I believe will be answered by my teammates. Perhaps I can answer the one from Cassie. Sister Cassie here is asking if I need to stay with that person for at least 9 hours. Perhaps it is related to the time frame that I shared just now. So you don't need to stay with them if they already willing to be safe, and they already have the safe plan, and they are already connected to the support. If you are the only person who knows their condition, and if you are the only person who is involved in the picture, then yes, you need to stay, but you don't have to ensure that it is 9 hours. The measure is not about the time, but the measure is whether they are already willing to give up the plan for suicide. That is the measure. And also whether they're already willing to engage in further help. For example, if they are already connected with the professional help, or they are already together with their loved one, and they already don't have the legal means that they might use to end their life. So that is